Oh my God. OMG. Remember? What was it? I like big butts. Oh my God. Look at her butt. Rika. Oddly, Rika, and I think it's a strong dog trait. She'll back her butt up into you for her submissiveness to show that you're in charge. So for new people that meet her, she comes up and sniffs them a little, then turns around and backs into them. And people are like, hey, your dog's putting her butt on me. And I'm like, no, she loves you. She's showing you her bum. Huh, Ricky? Good baby. Dude, what craziness. So, I mean, enlightenment today. Some awesome stories today. I don't know who it was. I think it was Italians. They figured out that now in your nonstick pans, your PFCs, what the hell are they called? They're called hold on. If you don't know what they are, they're called perfluoroalkyl compounds, PFCs. It's the shit that makes your Teflon slippery, right? Gives it those slippery outer outer neutrons, whatever, particles on your atom, and then your shit doesn't stick on it. There's no binding, even with mild heat or heat. The Italians have determined that the PFCs, and it started around 1978. The PFCs, when ingested from these pans and from some other stuff, but mostly nonstick pans, they reduce testosterone production, thus leaving you with smaller and thinner penises. No! That's what happened! That's what happened! I know the answer! Fuck, I could have used that years ago. No. Listen, I'm a special case. I've ingested a lot of PFCs. Oh, I remember my father died from Alzheimer's, and I remember him, he cooked every day in a pan. He made wheatena breakfast cereal with a wooden spoon. And I'm not saying he just, once in a while. He did it every day, so much so that after a decade or more, the spoon was worn. Instead of a round teardrop shape on the wooden spoon, the side that he stirred with, because he was right-handed, was worn, thin. And they came out with some kind of study where they said that the aluminum from heated aluminum pans could bind with your tau and your other shit in your brain, your amyloid plaque, right? And have some kind of effect toward Alzheimer's. That was 10, 15 years ago, I think. And I don't know if they didn't know, I don't think that ever came to be. No, I think there's some kind of experiments that they discovered where it did interrupt, your synapses. And they could see that it had some negative effect. And my old man fucking ate out of an aluminum pan his whole life. So now, the PFCs with the diminishing manhood. And they've done discoveries with the Chinese, with the Australians, with West Virginians. I mean, all over the place. The Netherlands. And they're finding out that from this study, this pollution, even after birth, this is not fetal inside of, a uterus growing. This is post-birth. That it reduces the sex hormone, testosterone, in your body. And it can have a profound effect. Wow! One, I would have never even thought a study like that, I don't know, would have occurred. Two guys standing around the water cooler over at Italian U. Hey, Luigi, what's happening with you? You don't seem to be as potent as you used to be. We should figure out. What do you eat a lot of stuff off a non-stick pan? Yeah, pizza. Oh, so weird, but I think, in studying everything we use, like Consumer Reports, they're figuring out all this shit, right? And that's industry, and that's awesome. It's good to see. It's a weird story. I don't know what it'll really affect or what'll happen. I think your non-stick pans with your PFCs, and I don't know if they'll use PFCs if there's other type of compounds that they coat that shit with so that it doesn't stick. But damn it, get rid of those! I think that's a fucking plan by the women. It's a conspiracy. Chicks, they're like, listen, let's pump those pants out everywhere. Hey, what's up, little Mr. Little Dick? Hey, Mr. Small Penis. Please, don't make me eat off that pan again. Yeah, strange. Woo! So, I was shocked. I was robbed. That's a very weird story. And it sort of, shook me a touch when I read it this morning. But there's a lot of good stories going on. SpaceX, Elon Musk. I heard it on NPR early this morning. They took like a washer or a dryer, big rectangular box on board the recent Falcon 9 launch, which I think launched a couple days ago from Vandenberg out in California. And it had like a record 64 small satellites on it. And there were satellites from grade school kids and stuff. It was weird. They have these unit-based cubes that you can load experiments in. Everything's, hyper-scientific anymore. So they were like these small cubes that were like 1.5 or 2x2s, and you could build whatever you wanted in there. And some kids down here in Palm Beach Gardens put some kind of I don't know what it was. It's a 2-month experiment, and it's this cube, and the cube does something. It releases a gas, or it tests something with light or something, right? These were kids in grade school. So it wasn't extraordinarily complex, but from what you saw, and I don't know the school down here, the Wendy School or something like that. I think it's a private school, smarter kids. I saw them interviewed on the news, and you're like, those aren't 12-year-olds. What the fuck? Are we on Jeopardy? Where's Ashton Kutcher? Are we being punked? But the little smart kids built this thing, and a bunch of them were hauled up on the big cargo on the Falcon 9 from Vandenberg for SpaceX. And it was reused. This was the third launch that reused one of their rockets. Dude, that Musk. That damn Musk. Whew, smart bastard. But they also, I guess, included on this thing one of these larger cubes that had methane in it. Like 42 gallons of methane. Or, I don't know. It's a gas, I don't know, when it's under pressure, it's a liquid, whatever. So they were launching that up, and they were going to run definitive tests on how to transfer the methane gas from whatever that cube was through some process, and I'm sure very scientific. He's got all those smart young kids out there, man. If you haven't seen the SpaceX launches on the web, if you haven't seen the crews that he's got out in Vandenberg, he's got a lot of the geniuses from the legacy launch world that knew, rocketry and knew mechanics and engineering. So he's got some deep-minded dudes and gals that have done this for decades. But he's also got a lot of young engineers and smart people that they look like they're in their 20s and 30s. They're energetic. They're stylish. They've got piercings and tattoos, and they're firing shit up into the space. God bless it. How the fuck can't NASA do that? Bunch of stodgy tards in like short sleeve button ups with the tie. You got your horn rims and you're high and tight. Like you're still back in 1960. Break the mold. But I thought it was a pivotal day. This is a day forward in space history. Musk is sending this thing up. They're going to transfer fuel from this cube to something else. Either a tank or something somewhere else. so that they're going to start to solidify theory and process and functionality for fuel depots or fuel transfer or refueling for space trips. Dude, that guy is a fucking doer. No shitting around. And I guess when you looked at NASA and stuff like that, they did all that too, but very methodically, very, very planned, zero risk, zero tolerance, or they tried to, right? I don't know Musk's processes, but so this is it. You know, in December of 2018, one of the fundamental steps for future exploration, you know, investigated, which is cool as shit. So he's going to transfer all this methane, and then you'll have the ability to have fuel out there in outer space sitting on your satellite, and zippity zip, you fly away. Or it's on the moon, drop this big old fuel cube off on the moon, there you go. And I know they've used methane before, I think Mercury, Apollo, stuff like that, because it's a very stable gas. And there were some other features to it. The stability, the constant that it burns, the way the fuel, just like we have, you know, for your gas ranges and grills and stuff like that. So yeah, they use that booger for fuel in many, many ways. Cool shit. And he's investigating that. Moving forward, dude, we're gonna see that turtle head on Mars with his little red Model S or Model 3 or whatever the hell he's got up there, with the little astronaut sitting next to him, Starman. That's a big day. And I think shit like that occurred all the time in the past. You just never heard about it, right? One, no one ever released it. Probably they were, you know, confidential, classified information, especially with the space race with Russia and China and Europe and all that shit. And now it's sort of out in the open. And man, the world's a-changing, bro. Sister? What else? This freaking Arizona. What's it called? It's called Waymo. Waymo, boy. It's the Waymo 1. So in 2009, Google, or Alphabet, whatever, the parent of Google, started looking at autonomous cars that drove themselves, and we all knew that. And then Musk really showed up hard with Tesla, right? And autopilot became the focus. You had people, some dude just the other day, drunk behind the wheel, laying on the wheel, because autopilot has safety features in the Tesla where you have to have pressure on the steering wheel, or the car will slow down and shut off. Fucking Musk. Well, the dude's drunk on the steering wheel, hunched over sleeping. The cops see him because he's going 70 or something out in California. They get up next to him. This dude's passed out in the car. They follow him for 7 miles. Car's driving him home. Nice and happy, drunk and happy, wherever the fuck he's going. It's like Payne Stewart when he was on board the jet and the jet lost pressurization. Everybody passed out and the jet's flying. Horrible comparison. I loved Payne Stewart. Remember he always had the NFL golfing gear? He'd wear the old style ballooned pants. He had the cap. Wear Minnesota Vikings or wear Buffalo Bills. Ooh. But this guy's hunched over. He's got pressure on the wheel. The car's just humming along at 70. The cop gets up to him, you know, honking, screaming, firing their lights. This dude's bombed. He's gone. Thank you, kid, for driving me home. Yes, Michael. Well, I mean, we'll get you home safe, Michael. Fucking Knight Rider. The cops, now there's multiple, pull in front of him and behind him. The auto sensing on the car sees the cars and starts to slow down. They slow down and move it over. Dude, California Highway Patrol, chips. Those dudes got some skills. That's a smart move. And they arrest the guy and do all the shit and take his car and drive it around, autopilot themselves. I don't know, make a YouTube video. But, yeah, it's called Waymo, which is cool. I don't know if that's slang, like, dude, we need a car. Waymo, it's way more than you got. It's called the Waymo 1, and it's the weird Google cars that you see with the giant dome on them, which has like the 360 camera and becomes like the epicenter for its sensing and alerting and its sight and all that shit. They're in Phoenix, man. They've been driving in Phoenix since April of 2017. Today it was announced you're going to be able to use these things and it's going to be autonomous. You're going to be able to hail a cab through your smartphone, your little app. You're going to be like, I'm charging my phone, pardon me. You're going to be like, hey, why don't you call an Uber? No, man, I'm getting the Waymo. Let's get the Google car. Oh, and it shows up and poof, opens up. Oddly, though, they're doing a pilot release, and the smartphone app won't be available other than to like 100 people. I don't know how they pick those folks. They're probably commuters or high, public transportation users, something like that. Maybe big Lyft or Uber users. I don't know. I hope not. Stealing, customers from Lyft or Uber. Though Uber, I think, just announced a $17 minimum wage in New York City. Dude, that fucking place is like the Twilight Zone. It sucks you in and taints you. Which is why you always had a yellow cab in New York, and it was always $29.18 to go 3 blocks, and it was always smelly with crazy music, some crazy culture. You don't know who's in the car. Now it's $18 an hour for the Uber Lyft drivers. And they forced this legislation. You want to drive in the city? This is why, which is why the taxes are retarded in the city, in the state, the corruption, the collusion. Fucking New York. Man, I'm glad I left that fucking place. What a dump. Good. But yeah, you're going to be able to use your phone, call the Waymo 1. It's going to show up. Here's the cool part. I guess for this pilot or for the foreseeable future, there's going to be an engineer still behind the wheel. So the car's going to show up with a dude in the front seat, which I don't even know if you'll interact with. I don't know if there's a divider. It's a Pacifico, a Chrysler Pacifico, so it's a minivan, right? Which maybe they have a divider in there, and you got the guy up front. He may not talk to you. She may not never talk to you. She's an engineer. He's an engineer. They don't touch any controls. They're there for issues or problems. They're not driving the vehicle. They're just on board. Fucking weird. We're refueling in space. We got cars that are driving themselves. They're not Teslas. Weird, man. So that caught me off guard a little bit. A robot taxi service. It's here. All the shit we were talking about, and all the stuff that, Buck Rogers and, the future. It's here. And you hear it, and then there's like a story like this somewhere that hits the national media, and then it slowly disappears. Then you fly into fucking Phoenix, and your cab picks you up, and there's nobody in it. And you're like, what? I'm not getting in that cab. I just got in the cab. It's safer than any fucking car driving on the Phoenix Thruway. Wow, here it comes. And who's running it? Google. Parent company, Alphabet. Bazillionaires. Sergey Brin. And these tards in Fang. There's no place for hate and disdain. Dude. It's gonna be weird. We're heading toward weird. Weirder. So, I don't know. Pretty cool. But still, you're like, what? That's some strange shit, dude. And on the one hand, it'd be cool. I could see a bunch of tards saying, hey man, let's fly into Phoenix. Let's drive around in that. Be one of the first people. And I'm sure there's people all over that they're doing that. They're going to try to be on board these driverless cars and then, put it up on YouTube or do their Instagram or whatever. It's clearly a popularity thing, but what happens when before long it's second nature, just like everything else? So, and man, what happens if you're like my age, 50, 60, 70 with this crap going on? I'm not getting in that car. Yeah, the times they are changing. Um, there's the female brothel robots. They're everywhere now. And some of them are being closed down. Those realistic sex dolls that are 3, 4, 5, 7, 10,000 bucks. There's multiple places that are open. And they're being, I think they were raided. One was raided in France because the unsavory conditions. They weren't cleaning them. I mean, it was more like a crack house. Oh, had these cretin in there, just like pumping quarters into the robot. Oh, hello again. Oh, good to see you back. Yeah, I never left, baby. What? And now the females, the women have one. I just saw the world's first female sex bot is out there. Surprise! Yeah, so wonder where that's gonna go. No more human prostitution. I don't think every place will afford a sex bot. That was comedy. Remember the sex bots? Now it's real. Strange. I don't want to go on any heavy stories today, but over there at Columbia University, fucking Columbia, I've watched and seen a lot of comics because of Joe Rogan. There's a lot of comics that he has on the show that are also offshoots that he either had on the show and they do their own thing. And I've seen a lot of them speak, and a lot of them. Rogan's a big proponent of stating he never does college campuses, and Rogan's not a radical, but he meets with intellectuals like Jordan Peterson, some of these people, and he's openly in the last 4 or 5 years stated, yeah, I don't do campuses anymore. And he's pretty generic, but he's also pretty specific about why. That's not my type of crowd. Well, the freaking, what's his name, Nimish Patel? He's one of those SNL dudes. He's the Indian dude. He's funny as shit, dude. And he's sort of deadpan, and he stands up, and he does stand-up comedy, and he does, some of the more newsy or whatever type skits on SNL, and he's a writer, right? He doesn't do a lot of skits, but he's also a very creative writer. He was at Columbia. And he was at Columbia doing a frickin' stand-up routine, and he was invited there. It was for some kind of weird culture shock. They called it Culture Shock, was the event. Columbia University, on the Columbia stage. They probably have a fine auditorium. And it was a charity event showcased by the Asian American Alliance, right? And this dude gets up, and I guess the goal was to provide a platform for a diversity of American or Asian American artistic expression. I don't know where, maybe Nimish Patel, Tibet and all that junk. He is an East Indian or something of that nature. I don't think he's Iranian or, I don't know. But he gets up on stage and starts doing jokes, and I guess one of his jokes, and again, this is what I was talking about the other day, freedom of speech, right? He tells the joke, and the event organizers, the students that pulled this thing together, walk out on stage, take his microphone, and say, "You're done, get off stage." And he's like, no, I'm not done. And there was no booing prior to that point. The audience was listening to the performance. He objected on stage. They continued to tell him to leave the stage. And then they apologized. They apologized to the entire auditorium. And they said, "We're deeply sorry. We deeply apologize for inviting Mr. Patel in the first place and bringing these comments into a space for inclusion and acceptance." The student group said, "We apologize for the hurt his words caused members of the community." What? Dude, I heard Rogan like, this isn't my... What are we doing in these environments? inclusion and acceptance, and we don't want meanness. You know, and Columbia's got some smart cats there, and so they had after statements, right? And some of them made statements like, I didn't find it offensive. I was sort of shocked that they did this. And others said, you know, people will call us ultra sensitive, you know, and that's not really the case at all. You know, and I dislike when people who are older say that our generation needs to be exposed to the real world, because I guess he made a statement. So this is what happened. He joked that being gay cannot be a choice, adding that if a man is both black and gay, no one looks in the mirror and thinks, this black thing is too easy. Let me just add another thing to it. And I guess they didn't like any of that. And nowadays, those are some charged words, and they smashed him and pulled him off the stage. Yeah. And he protested, apparently, on stage. He said, look, I'm just familiarizing the students with the real world. And a bunch of the kids protested that. They were like, real world? I don't like when older people say that our generation needs to be exposed to the real world. Obviously, the world's not a safe place, but just accepting that and it's not continuing to perpetrate the unsafeness of it, it's saying that it can't be changed. So I don't agree with that, and I don't like what Mr. Patel said. It seems not too long ago, the opposite was true. Younger generations were the ones calling for older generations to loosen the constraints on comedy. Dude, it's getting weird, especially on the campuses. You got these young minds that are being molded, some of which aren't complete, and they're taking all these concepts, hundreds, thousands of years of concepts in this pretty charged environment nowadays. And they threw that dude off the stage. I wonder if they paid him. I guess it was a charity event, so maybe they didn't. Or maybe they did. But yeah, he got booted. So I guess you gotta be careful with your speech anymore. 1984, man, the fucking thought police are going to say to you, that's not acceptable. What's not acceptable? Speech, man. I didn't call fire in the crowded theater. What? Yeah. Blurred lines. So, a lot going on today with some fun stories, some crazy stuff. And then let me we'll end it off with this one. I guess some cats, I don't know where. Oh, in Austria? Bunches of, dude, and there's science going on everywhere, and it's cool to see it. You know, this funding and some of this research, which I think went on, but in much smaller studies with much smaller budgets. But these Austrian cats had a breakthrough. They can now see the thoughts of rats or laboratory mice using a brain map. And it all focuses on the heart of your brain, the organ, the hippocampus. And they now can see how the brain in the mouse works, the rat works. And based on the way that the brain is reacting, certain areas are firing and certain areas are showing electrical, impulse and synapse firing and whatnot, and what occurs where. They took this like 8-pronged map or maze, and then they put food in 3 parts of it, and they dropped these lab rats in, and they could see the hippocampus firing to the parts of the brain that were spatially related. And they would know before the rat moved that the rat was going to go down the wrong arm. I mean, we are starting to do some serious research. Watch your balls. You're going to tie this kind of shit, mind mapping. And a mouse ain't a human, right? But the fundamentals, I'm sure, are the same. And you're going to be able to have this mind map, a cloned living entity or a grown living entity, and potentially some kind of hybrid artificial intelligence. Dude, and when you got that trifecta, you're gonna have your ultimate beings. Sci-fi gone. Weird. Be launching those cats out to Mars. Some kind of army of cyborg superhumans. Shoo! I don't know. Pretty cool. But I guess this work's been, it's won the Nobel Prize in like 2014, all kinds of that crap. Really deep-seated study of the hippocampus and how that thing really controls, major function within the brain. And that stuff's awesome to see and scary to see. I mean, knowledge, there should never have fear of learning and knowledge, but some of the applications that we look at, especially nowadays, where when we talked yesterday about defense and military, where that's all going to go. I don't know. But OMG, oh my God, some stuff going down in Chinatown today. Whew. So I thought I'd share those stories. And I think we'll keep it short. Godspeed, good luck. Out!